from us. And I want you, we can bring it on the floor. Never danced like this before. We don't talk about it. Dance.
Hey guys, what's cracking? And welcome to a couch. Today we are on the couch and we are going to be talking about Season 4 in review. Season 4 was definitely a good season. I think the Boston Bisharps were on a tough streak in Season 3. We had a tough Season 3, I think. I think in Seasons 1 and 2, I kind of got lucky with a draft that ended up winning. I think my skill level has improved as well, but I think more importantly in Seasons 1 and 2, I got lucky with a draft that really allowed me to flourish. But I think that in Season 3 we saw me struggle with a draft that really wasn't well put together. And coming out of Season 3, I really had, that frame of mind. I need to really be able to form a better draft. So I think in Season 4, when composing my draft, I managed to do a much better job with that. And personally, I am quite proud of at least the draft that as it ended up being, especially in the end. I think the trade for Vileplume, while Quagsire was a mon that was very valuable, it also had a little bit of flaws in that a lot of Pokemon can learn Hidden Power Grass or Grass Knot and use it efficiently enough to kill Quagsire. So I think the trade for getting Vileplume, which allowed me to break through some Pokemon that I previously couldn't, especially Fairies, which I was going to struggle with otherwise. Fairies, things that are weak to grass, so bulky waters. A lot of these Pokemon that I would rely on some Pokemon running the right coverage move for, I all of a sudden had a powerful stab attacker. So I think ultimately the draft overall was a success. And I think, I stand by that draft. I'm very happy with it. There's definitely room for improvement, and I'm hoping to go into Season 5 with some degree of improvement. So I kind of want to talk about every mon down the line, one by one. So specifically, we're going to talk. So first of all, we got to start off with our Mega Evolution, Mega Medicham. Mega Medicham was definitely a powerful threat. It didn't actually make a whole lot of appearances in Season 4, be that for better or worse. I did actually a lot of times end up fearing to bring Medicham for a risk of high jump kick. And the thing is, people like to run Protect on random things or bring their Ghost type just because Medicham's high jump kick is so hard to switch into. While Medicham actually did have some very good battles when it did come, it was very key in my, I think, first and second battle of the season, as well as had some pretty strong appearances and was able to clench some kills throughout the season. There was also a solid stretch of, I think, 3 or 4 battles where I didn't bring it at all. And so one thing I kind of realized about Medicham was that while it's very powerful, immensely powerful, it has fantastic coverage moves, it does struggle with a couple of things, and namely that's bulky psychic types, which were very common in this league. Things like Cresselia, Slowbro, Musharna. These are all Pokemon that could really shut down Medicham, and that really had me struggling to utilize to its full effectiveness. What made matters even worse for Mega Medicham was that it really struggled to offer me versatility. Yes, I can tweak EVs and I can tweak Moot Pool, but at the end of the day, Medicham is a physical wall breaker, and that's all it can do. I can run dual priority all I want, but that doesn't make it a cleaner. Fake Out can only be used once. So at the end of the day, Medicham only really does one thing effectively that I could, and if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me in the comment section below, but to the best of my knowledge, I found that Medicham was only capable of doing one thing, and that was wall breaking. And so while that's fantastic and it's awesome, but if your only ability as a Pokemon is to be a physical wall breaker, you become easier to prep for, especially if the main move that you rely on to wall break is a move with such a high risk involved, which is high jump kick, which is also very exploitable. It made me resort to using moves like Drain Punch a lot of the time, which aren't bad moves again, but it kind of delegated even that wall breaking role to getting weaker and weaker progressively. And so while I love Medicham in OU, I think when people know how to prep for it and people see it coming, it becomes less of a threat because people are more likely to bring their Ghost types, they're more likely to bring a bulky Psychic type, or just some type of Pokemon that Medicham is going to struggle with. And so that's my thoughts on Medicham. Next up, we got our MVP. Shoutouts to Blue. Manif is going to be up next in our analysis. Manaphy was a great Pokemon to have for both Season 3 and Season 4. I will say it does deserve an honorable mention. For Season 3, Manaphy basically single-handedly did all work that season. Like, there were, of course, games where other Pokemon were able to put in work, but Manaphy basically decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to own the show. This is my game. And so Manaphy in Season 3 was basically an unstoppable force for my team. And while that draft sucked, Manaphy was the one thing that saved it somehow. And then in Season 4, Manaphy was not the top killer for most of the season. However, towards the end of the season, Manaphy, I just ended up getting a lot of opportunities to really shine against a lot of bulkier teams that it was able to break down. That's really where Manaphy ends up excelling, is breaking down bulky and balanced teams. However, a lot of these teams also are able to run quite effective offense. A lot of players have been figuring out, I think, slowly how to beat Manaphy, and there are definitely ways to do it. And I think that's something that I found was kind of limiting it in Season 4 a little bit. Players were finding slowly ways to break down Manaphy. This kind of circles back to the same point with Medicham, is that while Manaphy is arguably a little more versatile than Medicham, I did run Banded Manaphy at one point. I ran Calm Mind, Rain Dance variants, so it's a little more of a variance there. At the end of the day, I feel like neither of those sets is nearly as viable as the Tail Glow 3 attack set. And even in that, I ran some variants. I ran some South Berry Cleaner, some Wakan Berries, some just leftovers. I ran some variants there. But I feel like Manaphy, again, got really delegated to the role of exclusively a special wall breaker in almost all battles. And that's something that I really was frustrated by. While it is unarguably a great Pokemon with a great move pool, and really I feel like in my hands, I have the know-how to use it. I play with it and OU a lot. And it was honestly just fantastic to just mess around with. But I do, after 2 seasons with it, I start to see the problems with it, especially in the sense that it kind of was becoming a little bit, I would say, oversaturated in my gameplay, and players were getting better at prepping for it. I did bring Manaphy in every single battle of Season 3 and Season 4. It was the only Pokemon that I brought to every single battle ever. I don't even know if Zard X or Mega Pinsir. Mega Pinsir didn't come to every battle back in the day. I don't think Zard X did either. Or even I don't know if Excadrill. Season 1 maybe was a little different because it was shorter. But Manaphy has come to every single battle for every single week that I've been in since the start of Season 3 when I picked it up. So unfortunately, it's going to be Manaphy's time to head out. I don't know if I'll end up picking it up again. I don't know if I want to pick it up again. I love Manaphy. It's been great. It's a great Pokemon in this format, but it might be time for Manaphy to leave us. We'll see how the Season 5 draft goes. I don't think I'm going to be too heartbroken if it's gone. I don't think I'm going to be, but I don't know if I'm even going to have to feel like I need to pick it up if it's not gone. I do have my eye on a couple other things, but those are going to be secret. Next up, we got Garchomp. Garchomp was a great Pokemon to have in my draft this season. One thing that Garchomp was actually really great for was being finally a Pokemon that had offensive and defensive versatility. It could run just a Life Orb mono attacking set, which I ended up bringing a couple times. It can run sub SD, it can run SD3 attacks, it can run a tank set, it can run a combination of the two. So I found a lot of really awesome utility in Garchomp. And I think Garchomp, honestly, while Manaphy may have ended up being the MVP, I kind of got to give props to Garchomp for just being arguably an even better Pokemon than that. Garchomp was truly kind of fit a draft type of format that I wasn't really ever considered this effective. I don't think anybody in this league has ever used Garchomp nearly to the effect that I did this season. I know it's only been drafted, I think, one other time as a free agent. So which actually kind of ended up surprising me. Garchomp was awesome to have. That said, Garchomp does have some very, again, exploitable weaknesses. The fact that it's walled by basically all physical walls is really unfortunate. Even after an SD, a lot of really good physical walls that resist ground in some form can switch into it and take hits pretty easily. And that said, Garchomp has a pretty wimpy special attack that I couldn't really use to its full extent. Ran Fire Blast a couple times. Wasn't too bad, but it wasn't anything special to speak of either. Garchomp again has that super exploitable 4 times weakness to Ice along with Dragon and Fairy weaknesses, all 3 of which I think came into play multiple times in this season. So even to the point where I sometimes resort to running Yakberry for Garchomp, which is a cool set, and it's a cool idea, I think. But one thing I'm noticing is that 4 times weaknesses are something you really want to try to avoid wherever possible in this draft format. So while Garchomp was a great Pokemon to have, I don't think it ended up being as nearly as effective as I wanted it to. Sometimes. That's an unfair statement. It was almost always as effective as I wanted it to be, but there were times that Garchomp fell short. So I think if it does end up being on my draft again, if it doesn't end up being on my draft again, I think those are there's some qualities that I think I now know about Garchomp that I didn't before, which is pretty cool to say that this league is teaching me new things about Pokemon. Next up, we got Reuniclus. Reuniclus actually was a pretty great mon to have this season, and I really didn't utilize it nearly as much as I should have, I feel. Reuniclus was a fantastic Pokemon. I know it kind of, in week 2 against the Calgary Hydro Cannons, Reuniclus got into a Calm Mind War that it ultimately lost. But Reuniclus also came in clutch with a couple sweeps, and I think it was a really good Pokemon to have. It has phenomenal coverage move pool. You don't really have to worry about investing the speed on a mon that's as slow as it, so you are able to kind of just resort to mono attacking or defensive Calm Mind variants. You can really reel yourself back in a little bit. There were some times where I feel like Reuniclus, being a mon that I actually have almost little to no experience with, as far as I don't play UU a lot, and when I do play UU, Reuniclus has not been a mon that I've used a lot at all, like barely any. So I think there was a learning curve there as far as using Reuniclus goes. I was able to use both Magic Guard and what's this other ability? Regenerator. I think quite effectively. So I was pretty amped to be able to use both of those moves, even though Magic Guard's almost always better. I think Regenerator came in clutch in a couple battles, or the one battle maybe I brought it to. I think it was a good find. And Reuniclus is honestly a mon that is awesome overall. Next up, we got our franchise, Snorlax. So Snorlax is an awesome Pokemon, and it did end up being our franchise. I was debating between Garchomp and Snorlax, and I chose Snorlax for reasons that you will hopefully one day be able to see, because I have some plans in mind for this Snorlax in Season 5. What's awesome about Snorlax is that it's a fantastic defensive Pokemon that doesn't lose offensive pressure, is what I found. And that's what makes it really valuable to me. It has a versatility, insane coverage move pool, versatility in both defensive and offensive roles. As far as you can run a really great Curse-Lax set, really great Assault Vest set, really great Banded set. There's a lot of versatility there as far as running, defense or offense. And what really I found was really key was that it could switch it on special attackers, almost always run a covered move to hit them, and a coverage move to hit whatever wanted to come in after that. So how I defined that just a little bit earlier is it's a defense Pokemon that didn't lose me offensive pressure, and that was really awesome to have on my team. I think there are definitely some shortcomings with Snorlax though. I think the speed stat obviously hinders it a good deal, but that's not the biggest concern that I ended up having. I think the biggest concern I ended up having is that it's a defensive Pokemon with no reliable recovery. While it does have a phenomenal amount of special bulk, it really fell short in terms of a lot of times. There were multiple battles this season where I brought Assault Vest type Snorlaxes to sponge hits, and they ended up getting whittled down far earlier in the battle than I wanted them to. So I think that's something I have to kind of work around in the future. Just the fact that Snorlax, just can take a lot of hits, but can't heal it back up a lot of time. It might have been somewhat remedied if it had Drain Punch, but alas, it does not have Drain Punch, and I unfortunately cannot run Rest on a Assault Vest set. I would be forced to run Rest Chesto on a resting set, or if it wasn't going to be Curse-Lax. And so the problem with Rest Chesto is that it really actually does lose out on a good deal of special bulk just by doing that. And what was really awesome on Assault Vest was I could run of an adamant nature with a bunch of attack a lot of the time and just bop things hard. It's got a great move pool. All Gen 1 Pokemon do. But yeah, it ended up being our franchise, and I'm pretty psyched to see what it's got in store for us, because it was definitely a pretty good mon to have on our team. I just want to shout out, week 4 of this season, I think either week 3 or week 4, where Snorlax single-handedly took a game from 6-1 down to a 1-0 win. That was a sight to see, for sure. That was a battle against the Florida Alligators, I think in week 3 or 4, I'm forgetting right now. But that kind of embodies what Snorlax is capable of. with the right set. Other games were very clutch. I think against Nefertum, Snorlax had a great matchup there. Really just a lot of more special attacking oriented teams because not even a Focus Blast Snorlax can usually sponge up. It had some good pressure against the Washington Weaviles as well. Next up, we have a Pokemon from RU that ended up being very, very awesome for this team and a really good fit overall, and that is Alola. Alola is a Pokemon that I had in Season 1 that I haven't been able to pick up again since, and man, did I mess up not picking it up again since. Because Alola is a great, great Pokemon, and it really formed a filthy defensive core between Snorlax and Alola. Unfortunately, their typings didn't mix together too well, which is something I'm hoping to be able to remedy in the future. But what they lacked in their typing, they made up for with disgusting synergy beyond that. What I really found was just crazy between these two is that Alola could just wish, pass into Snorlax, and get Regenerator boost, so that they could keep each other healthy at the same time. Alola was able to just cleric up Snorlax on a whim. If people tried to use Toxic on Alola, Snorlax had immunity. So I found a lot of great ways to kind of synergize those two. If I can pick up Alola again, I don't know, I'm considering it. Alola is a great Pokemon. I'd be amped to have it on my team again. Anybody should be amped to have it. It does have between Scald and Knockoff, it also has two very spammable moves. Toxic Scald, Knockoff, Wish, Protect. Basically, all of those are the only moves I ever ran on it. Yeah, those are the only moves I ever ran on it. But those are all great moves. Wish Protect obviously is great. Scald and Knockoff are both extremely spammable. No Pokemon wants to get burned. No Pokemon wants to lose its item. Even if there are Pokemon that does, some Pokemon care less than others, but no Pokemon ever wants to lose their item or get burned. So Alola was really able to be a great defensive physical pivot for me, and really came back clutch in a lot of battles. So next up we have got Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl was definitely a mon that didn't really get utilized nearly as much as I wish it could have. Aerodactyl, honestly, if I'm being straight with you guys, let me down in a lot of battles that I wasn't expecting it to. Not that it necessarily let me down, but that Aerodactyl kind of lacks power is what I ended up finding. Aerodactyl really just kind of fell on its face. It's also actually my RU3 pick, I think. I think I just forgot somebody. Rip. But Aerodactyl, while I'm talking about it, I guess I'll keep going. It has a fantastic speed tier, which is the reason why I drafted it. It has the potential to be offensive pressure as a defogger, which is cool. It did run defog a couple times, and that never really came up too clutch for me. But what really let me down was the lack of power and the lack of bulk to get up a Home Claws or even a good boosting move altogether. Kind of useless abilities overall. That just wasn't able to utilize. Which was very unfortunate. 110 attack does leave a lot to be desired. Even after a Life Orb and a Home Claws, it still wasn't picking up a lot of KOs that I really wish it was. While Aerodactyl did come in, kind of was able to put some pressure on games such as against the Memphis Mammothswines, it didn't end up being too awesome anywhere else. Yeah, it really didn't. I can't think of a single game where Aerodactyl single-handedly stole the show. So next up, we have, I think, the saving grace of this team more than once. Pokemon that, honestly looks crappy by score, but it wasn't crappy at all. It was probably one of the top Pokemon on my team, almost always brought it, and that's going to be Uxie. Uxie is a great Pokemon that people kind of just don't care about. What I found with Uxie was that it has a very versatile support move pool. I think you just have to give it that. I did run an offensive Uxie that actually came in clutch against the New Jersey Flabebe, but I think Uxie was able to just really reliably run the utility moves that I needed. I ran a cool trick choice scarf set once. It was a reliable rocker for me a lot of times. It set up screens for me a lot of times. Things that I kind of felt it fell short on. It really never was able to. At times it was able to lose me a lot of offensive pressure but a lot of time I ended up never needing it at that particular moment of the battle, so I don't think that's too much of a drawback. The one thing that I will say is that lack of recovery kind of blew, especially while my nose is stuffing up, especially because if I want to run a light screen reflect variant, I end up running light clay, and that meant that I would have to take hits, and I would have to run a light clay and then not have my leftovers. So I would literally have no recovery, and that kind of sucked. Alola really couldn't wish pat in both Uxie and Snorlax on the reg, so I ended up not having a lot of use there. But I think those are two very small drawbacks in what has otherwise been a very, very, very good Pokemon. So next up we have got, I think it's Xatu. Xatu was a pick because I really wanted more hazard control. I realized Aerodactyl wasn't going to be that reliable early on. And Xatu wasn't great. It came to, I think, no more than 1 or 2 battles this season. It's pretty underwhelming, honestly. It did have one incredibly clutch moment against the Calgary Hydro Cannons in Week 2, where it hazed away Slow Roast stats after losing the Calm Mind War. And that was key, and I will give it credit for that. But that was like kind of role that any Pokemon with Haze could have done. So like it's not like it's because Xatu had this key combination that let me win the game. It was just that Xatu was in the right place at the right time. I ended up trading it away and getting it back, and then trading it away. I traded it away, got it back, and it was on my team for the rest of the season. There was a little bit of a shuffle there for a while in my NU tier picks. But Xatu, can't say anything speak too highly about it just because it didn't really get a lot of usage. I think there's not really much to say. Pretty crappy stats overall. Decent speed stat, decent special attack stat. Neither of which ended up being very key. I didn't really bring it as a hazard clearer a lot. Magic Bounce didn't really end up being too useful that much. There's not much else to say. Next up we have Vileplume, who was a great Pokemon to have out of the lower tiers. I was never expecting that Vileplume was going to be such a dominant Pokemon. Even against Alpha Horus, it had a lot of potential, even if that battle didn't go too well. But against Alpha Horus, it definitely had a lot of potential. It had a good matchup against not only him, but also against the Syracuse Sylveon. So the battle where I did have Vileplume was able to put in a lot of work. It does have a limited move pool, but not that limited. It hits the things it needs to hit. You got to give it credit that it can't hit everything. It's just an NU Pokemon, but it does hit the things that it needs to hit with a solid 110 special attack set, a respectable amount of bulk for a Pokemon in a tier that low. Can't complain. It didn't let me down. It really didn't let me down ever. Like, Vileplume was just pretty reliable for any Pokemon, so I was pretty pleased with it. Finally, in the bonus pick, we had Zebstrika, we had Farfetch'd. Neither one was anything to speak of. There's not even gonna be a picture there because neither of them were anything to speak of. So moving on from just the Pokemon, I'm sorry this is a long video. If you guys don't want to watch all of it, that's fine. Just talking about the season in review. So firstly, I think I want to talk about what happened in the semifinals match. I made a play to switch out. It's going to be playing right there. I made a play to switch out Alola into a Snorlax, sack up Snorlax when I predicted a Tyrantrum attack. Tyrantrum was setting up, and in hindsight, I realized that was a pretty key misplay in the battle, because when I thought about it more, I realized that at that point in the battle, I was already going to be at a deficit. And I was going to have a tough time doing well. But I think I really made the worst of that situation, because had I not gotten paralyzed and clicked Scald, that would have been a better play. Switching on to Snorlax allowed Tyrantrum to get up behind a sub again, and I didn't really realize that Alola could take 2 hits that effectively. I was expecting a head smash, didn't know if I could live it, so I wanted to sack it off and try to get that sub away. But I realized in hindsight, had I stayed in, his only play would have been to go behind a sub again, set up a Dragon Dance again, and that's something I hadn't realized from the battle. That was honestly a key mistake by me. So what I should have done was left an Alola, hoped to Scald it enough so that it could break the sub. If I could break that sub, and this is again assuming I don't get parried. If I got parried, it would have been over anyways. Break the sub, bring in Garchomp, sack off Garchomp Wall to force the rough skin damage on Tyrantrum, and from there I would have Medicham, I would have Vileplume, and Manif. And that's a combo that could have won the game. Would it be easy? No. Like, if a Azumarill comes in, or Azumarill ended up being Assault Vested, Clefable, I have the right team to beat the team that ended up being there at the end, but it would be really hard. Especially, I think specifically the hardest mon would be beating that Musharna plus Clefable, because the only Pokemon on the team that could really take on Musharna effectively was going to be Manif, and Clefable just doesn't care about Manif at all. So that would have been hard, and definitely would have been an uphill battle, even if I had done that. Well played to Alpha Horus. He's a fantastic player. As of recording this video, Season 4 finals have not happened, so best of luck to him. But yeah, I think that was my key misplay in the battle. I don't know if it ended up affecting the end result too much, just because I don't know how the game would have gone. But I do think that it was a key misplay that ended up guaranteeing that I lost the game. So I guess I shouldn't have snacked off Snorlax. I could have saved Snorlax for a later switch. Alola was honestly kind of useless at that point in the battle. So he had Scrafty, Clefable. He had Scrafty, Clefable. What else did he have? Azumarill and Musharna. So Alola kind of just only took on Scrafty. Didn't even take on Scrafty that well. I would rather be in on Vileplume or Manif setting up and bopping that thing. So yeah. I think I did make a pretty key misplay there. It's unfortunate. I really was hoping for a better end of this season. But it is what it is. I played badly in that one particular turn, and I hopefully will be able to learn from it in future seasons. So I think just coming off of that, so things I need to improve on is don't get overconfident in not only any one game, but even in any one play. This is something that is kind of a strength that I have sometimes that I don't have other times. I think at certain moments I just kind of don't think enough turns ahead, and sometimes I think too many turns ahead. And so it's like a fine balance that I have to. It's hard to find that walk that line. But I think that's something that honestly I need to improve on is walking that line of being properly prepared for every single battle. There were some battles where I just didn't care. And it ended up costing me. I didn't prepare nearly as much as I should have, or in the right methods that I usually do. I think I have a very good system of team prep now, but sometimes I just didn't use it for some reason. So that was very stupid on my part. But I think there's definitely some work to be done as far as just being confident in the right things and not confident in the wrong things. And that means the right plays, the right team prep, not in just my skill, my ability to save every battle based on my skill. Because I think, honestly, I would be selling myself short if I said I wasn't. I think I'm a very good Pokemon player, but I think also that I need to acknowledge that, just because I have the skill to win a battle doesn't mean I'm going to win the battle. I need to be 100% present, 100% sure I'm making the right play. Case in point, things like that happen with Alola. And to be aware and sure that I'm making that right play 100% of the time, at least in my mind. I did expect him to attack, but in hindsight, I should have realized even if he attacks, the play isn't to switch into Snorlax. The play is still to click Scald and get rid of that sub. I shouldn't have been trying to save Alola is what I'm trying to get at. But things I think I did well, I have a little sheet here. But things I think I did well, I think I kind of touched on this. I think this is the best draft I've ever had. It was definitely by far the best draft I've ever had. At least that's what I felt. I think I had a strong defensive core, strong offensive presence, both on the speed, as far as speed went, and as far as offensive power went. So I think I wasn't really short on any of those. That's going to be a hard thing to beat next season. I don't know how I'm going to improve this draft, honestly. And I think this season, actually, one thing I really did a lot better was improve my versatility and creativity coming to the battle. I didn't run the same sets every single time. I didn't run the same coverage every single time. And that was something I've been criticized for in the past. And I don't think it's fair to say that, I should be running, freaking, special, or I should be running Band Defeat every single time, or I should be running Special Medicham. It's not fair to say that, you shouldn't run Heat and, these crazy, gimmicky Heat sets just for the sake of doing it. You should be doing it because there's a reason, and there's a play that you can reasonably expect to happen, and there's a reason for running that. So that's things in OU, sometimes I run Wapmel, Berry, Azumarill, because Ferrothorn loves to switch into Azumarill. There's a reason I'm doing that. I'm not running Wapmel, Berry, Azumarill just because, why not? It's you gotta know when to run it. And I think that's something I was really able to kind of wrap my head around this season is there are times where it's good to run that, but you got to make sure they're the right times to run that. So I think that's something I really improved on this season, honestly. So next up we got our the Boston Bisharp's accolades to hand out. Most valuable Mon has to go to Manif. I think that while a lot of Pokemon on my game on my team deserve honorable mentions, I think the big four that I can think of would be Garchomp, Alola, Snorlax, and Uxie are the four that deserve honorable mentions. At the end of the day, Manif brought it home the most times. Manif got the most kills, had the best differential. And so it's got to go to Manif. I'm gonna miss the little guy. Like, might not have him next season, but that's okay. Regardless, we had a good run, 2 seasons together. So I'm gonna miss the little guy. He was great to have around. Least valuable Mon is gonna have to be Aerodactyl. I think there was not a single battle where Aerodactyl was clutch. Like, there was I would have given this award to Xatu, who also deserves an honorable mention here for being not very valuable at all, but Xatu came in clutch once. Like, I couldn't take it away from Xatu because Xatu basically saved my butt against the Calgary Hydro-Canes. So I couldn't take it away from Xatu. Xatu was awesome to have for that one battle at least. So Aerodactyl, on the other hand, only had one battle where it had the possibility of putting in work against the Memphis Mammothswines in like week 6 or something. It had one battle where it had the potential to do it, and even there, it didn't really end up doing anything. It just kind of switched in, switched out. Switched in, put some pressure on Deancey, switched out. That's what I remember. So Aerodactyl really was never too key in this battle or this week. So for that reason, I'm giving it the least valuable Mon. Sorry, Aerodactyl, you just were not that great. Most underrated Mon, most pleasant surprise, has to go to Vileplume. I don't think I was expecting Vileplume to be as potent as it was in the battles that it matched up well in. I think all 3 battles I brought Vileplume to, even against the Macargo Tel Aviv, the first time around, I brought Vileplume, and I didn't end up even bringing it out, I think, that much, if I even did at all. And Vileplume still, I think, managed to put a lot of offensive pressure on him through the back, as well as gave me a nice safety net. And then it also matched up really well against the Syracuse Sylveons. Got a couple kills there. Matched up well against Alpha in semifinals again. And honestly, game probably would have gone a lot worse if Vileplume wasn't there. So I think Vileplume was definitely notable for its presence. And it just that I wasn't expecting it to be so good. Definitely an underrated Pokemon. But so moving forward, I want to continue honing my ability to draft well. I'm hoping to be able to draft an improvement on this current team. I think I have the right idea. I'm hoping to just be able to keep improving from here. I think I need to really take that approach, was like take each game more seriously. I think I honestly started off the season with a lot of good momentum and taking the game seriously, and it kind of fell apart as the season went on. But I need to approach each game with even more thorough knowledge of what every Pokemon could possibly run. I think some things I didn't think of. Like I thought of Dragon Dance Tyrantrum and how I was going to beat Dragon Dance Tyrantrum. I didn't think how I was going to beat sub Dragon Dance Tyrantrum. That's stupid on my part because I run sub Swords Dance on Garchomp. That's basically the same kind of set. So I should have been more aware of that. So things like that I think I need to be more aware of. Give myself a little more of a thorough understanding of every Pokemon that I'm coming up against, what it could be running. I think one key that might happen is I need to go through their move pools with every single Pokemon, every single time, think about the move pools that it could run. But I think that's actually everything I want to talk about. So that's a long video. But for those who stuck around, I hope you enjoyed it. That's Season 4 recap, my own just summation of Season 4. Looking forward to Season 5. Get amped. Boston Bisharps we're going for it. If I can get the draft that I have in mind, like if I can get the specific cores that I have in mind, it's going to be a sight to see, I think. I'm amped. I think there's a good chance that I can get the Pokemon that I want. I got 5 in mind. 5 Pokemon. And I'll tell you after the draft. We got 5 Pokemon we want. And if we can get those 5, I'd hate to be the player that faces me. But anyways, guys, I'm going to have to cut it off there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like, comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. It is always very appreciated. Wish me luck for Season 5. Until then, I will see you guys later. Kraken Nation, out. Classy, you're letting me down. Oh. Well, that went atrociously bad. I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit. That went atrociously bad, so we're going to switch on into Zwoop's mail.